Hello, I'm Bruce Lorincz, and this show is called Bruce on the Loose. I talk to people in city government, the school system, and a lot of businesses have moved into Wadsworth, and we've tried to cover them. Recently, we did the Blue Tip Festival, and I guess it kicked off very successfully. Very hot conditions a couple days ago, but it really came off very, very positive. Today, we're very pleased to have Bill DiMascio. He is the director of the Four Cities Educational Compact. Bill, thank you very much for taking time in your schedule to join us today.
Thanks for having me, Bruce.
What about your educational background? What was that, and how did that loft you into this your current position?
It's a good question. I kind of took a indirect path into education. I went to the University of Akron. I received a degree in geography and a certificate in cartography, and I actually worked for the federal government for 5 years for an agency called the National Imagery and Mapping Agency. And my wife and I wanted to move back in this area to raise our family, and I went back into education at that time, got a degree in history from the University of Akron as well. I'm a Zip through and through, as are many people in my family. And I started teaching in the Akron Public Schools for approximately 12 years as a social studies teacher. I lost my job about 3 years in through a RIF, a reduction in force, and had the good fortune to come into career-based intervention in career tech. And that was my first introduction to career tech, working with at-risk youth, trying to get them employed and get them to be successful in high school. And then I became a principal of the alternative school in Akron Public Schools for several years, and then went to Lakewood City Schools as a house principal. And as a house principal there, the career tech director position opened up in Lakewood City Schools, and I had the good fortune to get that job and spent 11 years in that role, a very similar role that I'm here in the Four Cities right now. That's kind of my educational background.
So all those positions gave you a little bit of insight into your current job, and really you had a lot of people along the way that really probably helped you.
Oh, really had some great mentors. I've met some great people from across the state that have supported me. My predecessor here, Roger Wright, being one of him, I met him through Ohio CCS, which is comprehensive and compact schools, the two type of schools that are represented in that organization. That's how we met and became good friends. And Roger and I would bounce things off each other all the time. But I've had many mentors throughout my years that have, helped me become the educator that I am today.
So location, when you knew that Roger was going to retire, you saw that opening, and you said, "Well, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and see where it falls."
Yes, I live down in this area, and I would commute to Lakewood, and we served 4 schools there, Westlake, Bay Village, and Rocky River, and Lakewood. But this job was much closer to home, and Roger, it kind of planted a seed in my, whispered in my ear, "Hey, I'm going to go at this time, and you might want to put your hat in for this," and it was a good fit for my family and I, getting me closer to home. And the Four Cities has a great reputation, and it's a similar model to what I came from, so I'm very happy to be here.
I would imagine the transition with your Lakewood experience with 4 districts, and here, Barberton, Copley, Norton, and Wadsworth, it's not overwhelming, but it's certainly, to work with various administrators, it's probably quite a challenge.
Yeah, it's different. I like to say that the vocabulary is the same, but the culture is different. In my previous compact, all schools went to Lakewood High School, so it was one location. Here we're dispersed throughout the 4 schools. And I think that's healthy, because then kids get to see career tech in their own school. They can walk down the hall and take it, or can decide to go over to Barberton or Copley or Norton to take a program. So I think it's good to have it in all the schools where the students see it right in their home school and experience it as part of their school day.
Yeah, the restaurant management is at Copley. Here we have carpentry. Barberton, I think you have the print shop. And Norton, Teacher Academy, I think, at Norton. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And students have different reasons for taking career tech. Some students might get involved because it's right in their home school and they can just go down the hall and still take their academics during the day. And other students might be wanting to experience something different and go try a different school district for half a day. So there's different reasons that students take career tech, and I think having it in each school is a healthy model.
Right now, I think your offices are in the Overlook or the Parsons Administration Building, and they're doing some various things with younger children. And I think you're going to move this year. Is that little bird told me?
Yeah, we're already moved,
okay.
Bruce. We're already moved, and yes, we were in there with the Grizzly Academy. this year, and we moved over here to the high school, adjacent to the administrative offices there at the high school. And we're very happy about that. I'm happy about it because I get to see students a little bit more. That was one of my big transitions, was leaving, being embedded in a school and going to central office. But we had some fun times with the Grizzly Academy over there this year because of that closeness to that school. We took them up to the Bistro 81 this year, and they worked with our students to make hamburgers and French fries, had a lunch up there, and then they went over and saw the animal care and veterinary science program as well and had a little field trip out of it. So we made the most of that.
Is it kind of a challenge to go ahead and get middle school kids' interest and then 9th and 10th grade interest in the Four Cities Compact?
It is. There's a myth around career tech that still exists to this day, or back in the day when we were in school, called vocational education, that was for only kids that weren't going to college. And that's just not true. All of our programs have associated college credit with them. They're highly technical, and that can't start, that career development and career exploration cannot start soon enough. And the state has really given us some support to do that. And Jody McGinnis, my career pathways counselor, our career pathways counselor, I should say, within the compact, has done a really nice job with a book called There's a Hat for That by Dr. Kevin Fleming. And we've using our Teacher Academy students to teach a career development lesson to all second graders across all 4 districts this year. And all second graders got a book. There's a hat for that. So our goal is to get like a 2, 4, 6, 8 touch point, and then they apply in that 10th grade year. So we don't want students showing up in that 10th grade showcase year, and that's the first time they're hearing about the compact. And we certainly don't want students in their 11th or 12th grade year saying, gosh, I wish I would have known about that and I should have done it. We're going to try to make sure they know about it well in advance.
No question about it. A little information, and sometimes the parents can help too. They've been in a particular field, and maybe they again talk to their children and say, hey, there's a possible job down the road for this. Things have changed in the last 5 years. With the COVID, there's really a lot of jobs available for young people.
Education has really accelerated over the past several years, and certainly parents are very important in helping their son or daughter make those decisions. Moms are the research shows moms are the biggest influence on career tech students, and then it becomes friends. And the best time to hit those kids is really the 8th grade year before they go to high school, or in those middle school years. They haven't formed into their identity yet and their cliques, and that's a really good time to hit them with a message about career tech. And as you know, I saw you the other day at Reality Day. So we don't tout the compact at Reality Day, but it's a healthy exploration of what's coming for those students as they are 14 or 15 at that Reality Day, and we talk about what's coming in the next 10 years and they're going to do in their futures.
Yeah, it's kind of in the background, but they're making all kind of decisions. And some of the students that talked to me said, gee, I didn't know keeping a car was this expensive. I said, yeah, the gas isn't like 99 cents when you and I were growing up. It certainly is a lot more, and the maintenance, you just don't have a wrench to go ahead and get that tuned up, right, Bill?
Yeah, hope is not a plan to pay for those things, right? You want to have career development at that age, and you want them to start thinking about, what are the things I'm good at? What would I like to do with my life? And it's good to dabble in those things throughout 8th grade, into high school, through taking electives or taking a program and figuring out what is it you're good at, what you may want to do as your career for the rest of your life. Figure that out first, and then pick a college or a training facility that you want to go to.
We did a show with Dr. Suber about a month ago, and some students were just about ready to go to California. Can you tell us how they did?
Yes, that was our DECA students.
Yes.
Haley Harris and Parker Ross,
right,
placed in the top 10 in the United States for their division. They did
in the whole country?
Yes.
Oh my goodness
I think
gracious.
Even in the world.
They said there were people from other countries.
So that's Haley's second time placing in the top 10 finish. But Haley and Parker did a great job out there. All students performed well, but they were recognized for their achievements at DECA. That was in Anaheim.
Anaheim, wow, fantastic. What process do you go through if, let's say, your teacher in automotives wants to retire or has a health issue? What's that?
Nobody's allowed to retire right now.
I would imagine that's not an easy task. And you're probably the head of that search.
Yeah, I'm a part of that search.
Okay.
I mean, it really comes down to the home district, and I support them in that process. Right. All jokes aside, there's a teacher shortage. There's a shortage everywhere, and that's something that keeps me up at night if we're going to lose a teacher. So we just hired a fire science teacher, Bruce, over at Barberton. Ray Green, he's a retired chief from the area, and he's going to be our new fire instructor. Tim McCurry, who was a full-time Wadsworth fireman, was our part-time instructor with a bevy of other instructors through the University of Akron, and we just needed that continuity with a single teacher. So Barberton posted that position, and we just hired Ray Green to do that. And there's a process they have to go through to get certified and credentialed. The state's tweaking that right now because of the shortage. There may be some changes of that coming in the future. But that is certainly something that we watch very closely, because I think you win with people. Mm-hmm. And so those hires are very important. And they're going to influence a small group of students over several years. And so it's very important that we get those hires right in career tech and across education.
Sounds like a book I read from Woody Hayes.
Yes.
You win with people. Yeah,
That's right.
I did read that. There was and speaking of Barberton, I think there was a coach came out of there, but he went
might have been. I don't
up
know
north.
where.
Yeah,
I can't remember the school's name.
That's for sure. So many of these people that you hire really are very experienced in that area, and the only thing that you probably worry about a little bit, can they relate to students? Can they relate to kids? And then if they have a good first year, can they recruit and have the kids tell the other students that they know, hey, this was great, you should sign up for this? Yeah,
you have to like children. You have to like kids. That's the number one thing. You can have all the technical skill and content up here, but if you can't relate to children, you can't get them to follow you and come along and be a good role model, then it's all a moot point.
Why are some of the programs so popular? And I think some of the programs have waiting lists. I just don't believe that.
I believe we have 8 or 9 programs that had wait lists this year.
Ooh, wow.
It's not the only factor, but I had a mentor of mine that said, show me a full program and I'll show you a teacher that's leading the program.
Oh, okay.
And there are other factors that influence students going into programs, and there's natural ebbs and flows, certainly. But in our compact here, all of our programs are filling at a very high rate and an acceptable rate.
I would imagine that really students really look forward to hands-on learning is really something that we talked about during the 80s, but now this is reality.
Well, there's a lot of ways that you can be intelligent, right?
Right.
I always like to use this example. If I went down to Mr. Alexander's room and you stood me in front of his car and opened the hood, one of his vehicles, I wouldn't look very intelligent. And you might say the same for him. I don't know how his computer skills are, but my previous auto teacher, if you put him in front of my computer, he didn't look very intelligent. So I think you have to find out what your strengths are and what you're good at, what you enjoy doing. And that hands-on experience really allows some of our students' intelligence to just really come out and flourish.
What really surprises me is that the Wadsworth portion, I'm sure the other 3 districts as well, Barberton, Copley, and Norton, there is no tax. It's put in the budget, and the programs go and flourish with the existing monies.
It takes a lot of work, but we do get supplemental funds. It costs more to educate a student in carpentry or auto, for example, or diversified medical technologies, or even engineering. You're buying specialized equipment to train those students, so it costs more. So the state gives us, for lack of a better term, a little stipend or a supplemental fund for career tech. So we have to manage that money carefully and make sure we're buying the right things and looking out into the future and seeing what we may need to replace. For example, if our lifts are going bad in auto, do we need to replace those? Those are expensive. How do we plan for that? So we're constantly looking at the day-to-day needs, and then we're looking down the road to see what we might need in the future. And as technology changes too, Bruce, so things change really fast. There's things that new pieces of equipment that several years ago we didn't think we need, but we need to train that workforce of tomorrow right now.
I'm sure you rely a lot on those teachers. You talked about 9 programs that have wait lists. They probably let you know ahead of time. I mean, this can't be hey, next week you need to get me a new lift. I mean, this has to be planned in the budget for maybe a couple years.
I do rely on those teachers, and there's really no I in this. There's a lot of we.
Right.
There's a lot of people that make career tech run across these 4 districts. We have wonderful advisory committees for every program that meet annually. The principals, counselors, custodians, the superintendents. There's a lot of people that make this thing run like a well-oiled machine.
No question about it. And again, it seems like when things are changing in society, you have a bird's eye view and take a look at that and maybe develop a program. What would be the process to look at maybe a new program down the road?
Well, we're examining a program right now in Wadsworth City Schools. The first step is we kind of survey our population.
Right.
And I've worked with Dr. Suber on that. And we'll have a survey that'll go out here in the fall, and we'll identify some in-demand areas. There's a big push by the state to focus on, where the demand is in the state. Obviously, with Intel coming in, and the industries are going to support that, we're going to look at things of that nature. But we have to look what our student body, our parents, and our business and industry is in our communities are interested in as well. So we listen to all those folks and try to take that into consideration. So that survey is kind of the first step, and then we kind of narrow it down to say, okay, can we hire somebody in this area? What resources do we already have available? Do we have the space available? Is it sustainable with the money that we have? Because you can put a program in that's too expensive, you can't sustain it. So all those things become a factor for the schools.
Are there some programs that are struggling? My grandpa was a tool and die maker. He came from Germany, and he was precise, and he worked on lawnmowers and all kind of other machinery, and he was very fanatical about his tools and his garage, and you better not get close to any of those. But I understand that there are some programs that students are not maybe looking at as they have in the past.
Well, right now that's not the case. But a year ago, we advanced manufacturing was machining at the time. We did change the name to advanced manufacturing. We have a new teacher there. It's going fantastic. It's 21 students in that program now, where we had 6 interested last year. Okay, so that is a big turnaround for that program, and it has a lot to do with the teacher. We've also received a grant from the state for that program, $1.4 million through the CTE equipment grant, and that is going to go to advanced manufacturing and cybersecurity with networking with cybersecurity as well. So about $850,000 is going to go in advanced manufacturing. That room's been cleared out. We're waiting on state-of-the-art CNC machine to come in, plasma cutters, some welders in there, and then we're going to put in a cyber range, one of maybe the only one in the state of Ohio. That'll be at Barberton High School in our networking with cybersecurity program as well. So I'm glad to say nobody is really of concern right now as far as numbers. There's a high interest in career tech, and we're enjoying a lot of support.
What about the carpentry program? I guess someone told me that we're having an auction coming up, and you talk about looking at various phases. Those students and men and ladies have joined that program recently too. They really don't miss any aspect of a house, do they?
No, I mean the undertaking of that house is impressive. I had a carpentry program in my previous district, and they built garages in Lakewood.
Right.
Building a house on an annual basis is a huge undertaking, and it's impressive to see it being done. But Mike Horvat, who took over that program this year, has done a great job, and his students and his assistant Matt Cole have done a great job. And that house is going to go to auction on July 23rd at 6:29 p.m.
6:29.
Yes, 6:29.
July. What is it? 23rd.
23rd. It's at 405 Thornway Avenue in Doylestown.
Okay.
We're tucked in the back a little allotment there in Doylestown.
Okay.
We're going to have 2 open houses from 6 to 7 on July the 9th and July the 18th as well. So if you want to come through and see that, it'd be a great time to come through and see it if you want to put a bid on the 23rd.
Okay, now if I am interested in that, of course I would have to probably put a driveway in. I'd have to probably do the lawn. Hopefully the furnace is in, and I'd have a lot of extra charges and expenses for that house. Is that right?
No, not true, Bruce.
What?
Not at all. No, comes with a driveway. Come with a lawn. The only thing it does not come with is appliances. It has granite countertops. The house will be ready to move into besides the besides the appliances.
And those students, with working with those instructors, they probably, when they graduate, they could probably go ahead and do some jobs on their own, get on a crew, learn more precise work, and the sky's the limit for them.
There's no shortage for a need for skilled labor right now. So those students have plenty of opportunities if they want to go into carpentry or electrical or HVAC, whatever they want to do. But what really makes this housing project hum are our business partners. And D.W. Kaufman, Dave Kaufman, Realty, has been just a sage advice for us in helping us. He'll be there the night. He's the realtor for the auction. And Russ Farnsworth does the auction. He's the auctioneer. But they have donated tons of time. We have so many partners from the area: Thompson Excavating, Kimmel Heating and Cooling. And I just met Bright House Cleaning the other day. I met Nikki from there. She's donating her time and services to clean the house to get ready for sale. So there's many partners. Dominion Energy makes sure the energy is energy efficient certified. And I'm probably leaving a few names off there, but we have many partners that work hand in hand with our instructor and our students to make this a really formative experience for our students.
So collaboration isn't just something for the house, but the districts seem to work together. The same calendar. You certainly get support for athletics if they're there. After school, they can get involved in that. Extracurriculars. It seems like there's a lot of cooperation between the 4 districts.
There is. It takes a lot to coordinate schedules across 4 districts. We don't have our calendars perfectly aligned, but there is a lot of communication on those dates where we try to minimize impact. I'm a sausage maker on the side, kind of a hobby. So it's like making sausage. You don't want to see it happening, but the result is oh so good for kids when it's done.
Yeah, no question about it. What about, again, the role of parents? There could be some students that make a decision and they're not 100% sure, but do you kind of tell them, well, try it for 2 weeks and see how you like it, and then if you don't, we'll make a decision then. Parents can be you talked about the moms, but parents and sometimes grandparents, we have a lot of students living with grandparents now, they can be very influential, can't they?
Very much so, and there's nothing wrong with that. We encourage that. We want our parents to be involved in our students' lives. Our goal is to have healthy career development, as I spoke to before, at those grade levels 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So by the time they signed up for a compact program, they're not getting a surprise. And we do several things. We have the showcase every November where the students come and see every program over at Barberton High School, and then they pick 2 that they want to go visit. Okay? And so we bus them around and let them go visit. I say, you're going to spend, half a day potentially with this teacher for the next 2 years. You may want to make sure that you mesh with them, and this is a good fit for you. So we encourage students to go visit. And then after that, I've had parents that wanted to come see the programs as well. So, any program, any parent that wanted to come see a program, I would welcome them, or a grandparent or any significant other in a student's lives, I would welcome them to come in and see a program, see what it's about, and talk to that instructor. And then we have orientation for each school. So before that student comes in, they've had multiple contacts before they start that program. Of course, sometimes, Bruce, through these programs, you find out what you don't want to do too. You might find out, hey, I didn't think this was what engineering was going to be about. We just saved you $25,000 a year career exploration in college. So there is some of that, but I think if we do what we're supposed to be doing on the front end with healthy career exploration in those early grades, it's not as much of a surprise when that student gets into the program and finds that out.
My brothers both were involved in career education in the early 70s, where we talked about there was not, basically discipline problems, or people that, didn't get to school on time, or weren't cracking the books would go. But they really enjoyed it very much, and it's certainly come a long way. The development of technical education has really come a long way. And tell us about even Paul Taylor's program. It's diversified and so many different areas students can get into.
You know, and we're fortunate here to have the studio, you know, to partner with as well. And Paul does as you know, Paul worked for the Browns before he came to us, and Paul does a phenomenal job. And you know, the commitment to that program has been tremendous since it came on board. They've moved up there behind the library in the high school. He's got a studio. The goal is to develop that extra room he has there into a full operational studio, similar to this one we're sitting in right now. That's the goal there. He's got new Macs up there. Those students need to crunch that data and those files for video and sound. And so Paul's doing a phenomenal job up there. But he certainly has some big aspirations for that program, as he should.
And teachers, it's really nice to see teachers evolve and get better. You know, you probably were an excellent teacher to begin with, and I think I was pretty good, but in year 5, I can look back and say, gee, I really have evolved and do some really good things.
You know, when you first start teaching, if you're one day ahead of the students, you're doing an Irish jig, okay? You are so happy.
Yeah.
And I've talked to Paul about this and my other new teachers, Amanda Reed in Diversified Medical Technologies and others, Mike Horvath in carpentry. It's a 3 to 5 year process, you know, in career tech. The first time, you know, you're really just kind of surviving, getting it running. And then that second year, you've seen it twice. And that third year, you're really making it your own. And in 5, it really is your own. So I always tell teachers, give yourself some grace. You're learning as you're moving through this process as well. But they really do a nice job and do adapt after that first year.
Speaking of Amanda, I got my blood pressure last couple months, and the students come over to the Suprema Senior Center, and they have a little table there, and my blood pressure was pretty good.
That's
Bill.
good.
No question about it, and thanks to them for doing that service for the senior citizens.
Well, that, you know, and Ms. Reed does a fantastic job of this, is that the push from the state is to involve students in work-based learning experiences, authentic experiences. And she does a great job of that. She's had them out at the airport. They go to the hospital. They're over here doing blood pressures. And, you know, a little story behind that is, in my previous district, we would do screenings for elementary students for hearing. We'd help the school nurse. And one of those students got so interested in audiology, they took that path and ended up going into audiology even though they thought they wanted to be a nurse. So a lot of these programs are broad brush and allow for a lot of on-ramps and a lot of off-ramps.
Sure.
So I think, you know, when you embed that work-based learning and those, you know, formative experiences into students' programs, it's a really healthy thing to do for kids.
Bill DiMascio, I learned a great deal today. Could we do maybe show with the on location for the house?
We'd be happy to have you out there. We're going to wrapping things up, and hopefully we can do that soon.
Great. Coming up next month, the sale of the house. And thank you for viewing Bruce on the Loose.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.